How about that? The Fiesta Bowl, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, Penn State, Boise State. It drew some big numbers New Year's Eve, primetime slot. Close to 14 million viewers across ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPNU on New Year's Eve. And if you're going to compare it, it finished better than Game 2 and Game 3 of the World Series on Fox. It did better than the women's gymnastics competition on NBC during the Paris Olympics, and any game in the NBA Finals on ABC. Joining us now to talk about it, as well as kind of look at tonight's game and last night's game, Erik Moses joins us now on the Right to It guest side. Erik, what's going on, man? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Hey, I'm just glad I still get to come on and talk to you guys now. It's just so big time. You
know? Well, I don't know about that. I think maybe you helped us get over here, so we appreciate that. You know the head honcho over here, so maybe you said a couple kind words, and he said, "Okay, we'll let him come on 620." So no, we're excited to be here, big time. And I tried to get rid of Manuch. I thought Rock and Moses would have sounded good, but. He paid me to stay on the show, so it's going to work out all right.
Erik, I've got more influential cousins than you do, I think.
Yeah, the Manuch saying.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So basically, you're done, right? I mean, we'll see you do it next, late December next year. I mean, you don't do anything else, right? This is just kind of a little bit of a break. You get a little vacation.
I wish. I'm down here in not that warm Miami, having watched a hell of a ball game last night at the Orange Bowl. And, I got to say that I was a little surprised by the outcome. I had thought for a long time, the entire season, that Riley Leonard essentially was going to make or break Notre Dame's team. Quarterback who typically doesn't throw for over 200 yards, runs the ball well, but isn't I don't think what anybody would call a running quarterback necessarily. He scrambles well. He takes advantage of what the defense will give him, but not really a running quarterback in the classic sense. But, he put the ball in the air in that second half, came back from after getting his bell rung, and frankly, I think he's the reason they won that game, along with a really stout defense.
Well, you got to look at that. All of a sudden, they got their running game going too, Erik. I mean, it was something, the switch flipped in that locker room, and to hear Coach Freeman hear Leonard talk about what happened is something like, hey, the future is written by those that can, and to make sure that he put that out there. So whatever it was, but I love the physicality of the game. I loved how close it was. And I would have thought when you looked, that's pretty much two evenly matched teams after it was all said and done.
I think that's right. I feel horrible for Drew Allard because, he made some mistakes that ultimately I think made it really difficult for Penn State to win when it looked like they had the momentum to close that game out. And frankly, having spent time around the Penn State team, both down in Happy Valley in the first round game and also out at our place last week, was kind of pulling in some ways for that school and for Franklin and the rest of those guys. So hell of a game. It was great to be there. The field looked beautiful. The stadium was packed, and it was exactly what we all want from a college football game.
Was the pageantry and all the pomp and circumstance surrounding the game any different than if it was just a regular Orange Bowl? We didn't have this kind of a magnitude of a playoff, or was pretty much enhanced?
I've not been to a non-playoff Orange Bowl, so it's hard for me to compare. I will say that what they've done with Hard Rock Stadium over the last, 10 plus years since they brought in the Formula One race and some of the other, and the tennis tournament and the other things they do there, make that campus very appealing. And so they've got a lot of spaces there outside the building, but also a lot of really high-end clubs inside the building to cater to that high-end tennis and Formula One kind of clientele that made the venue, which is a pretty old venue, right? Like much older than State Farm and some of the others, but made it really appealing.
Erik, I want to talk about Marcus Freeman has a lot of ties to the Fiesta Bowl. He played in the Fiesta Bowl as a member when he was with the Bucks against Texas, and of course coached there, and they've won a national championship there. This is a great story with this guy, isn't it? And after the game, he did the interview, and it wasn't about him. Where they talked about him being, who could be the first black coach to win a national championship. But he said, hey, it's about the kids. It's about the program. And it just seems like whenever he speaks, you just kind of sit there and you're like, wow, if I want my son to go play for him.
Yeah, he's a pretty impressive guy, and you can tell the kids respect him and play for him. I think it's a great story. I'm personally happy to see an African American coach finally coach in the FBS national championship game, and wish him luck. I do think though that it has to be about the kids, right? I mean, he doesn't get there without those kids, and so yeah, Marcus is a great specimen, if you will, for what I think the modern day college football coach kind of needs to be like in terms of the way that they treat their team and relate to the public. I saw Paul Feinbaum posted something that said, Notre Dame was the most hated program in the country, and now Marcus Freeman has changed that.
Wow. I was just going to say that. Wow. I've known a lot of people go, wow, we really like Notre Dame. We follow Notre Dame because of Freeman. And one thing you brought up in reference to staying up with the Joneses, so to speak, that program is now staying up with college football. You don't have the big, clunky guys that are slow and smash mouth. He's got speed. He's got size. He's recruited and turned that program around, not only in the culture, but physically as well, too. That looked like a team of modern era that can compete for a title now.
Well, the guy played at Ohio State, right? So he's accustomed to what Big Ten football is like, having been a part of it. And I think, to your point, that team had to start to look more like a Big Ten / SEC team in terms of the elements, right?
Yes.
If you're going to compete with the big boys in that way, you're going to have to be able to compete with them on speed, on size, on technique, and certainly on recruiting. And it looks like that's where he's got them.
So, if Ohio State wins this game tonight, and it is a Notre Dame Ohio State, what do you think's going through his mind, being able to face a team that he went to? He went there, obviously. I mean, does he want to beat them bad, or do you have that? Oh man, this is my alma mater. This is Ohio State, the Ohio State.
At a certain point, I think your allegiances are where or who signs the paper.
That's right. So exactly right, Derek.
But I think Marcus will be all about Notre Dame.
But I don't think even Disney Productions could draw that up to that point. I mean, if he plays Ohio State, Ohio State grad, I mean, Disney would go, no, that's too far-fetched. If they were to look at that at the beginning of the year, yeah, maybe, but they might turn that script down.
But then he even played at Ohio State against Texas. So, there's just so many nice tie-ins with this. Couldn't get any better than this.
How'd you set this all up like that, Eric? How'd you do that, man?
Been working for a long time on these stories.
Yeah, okay. Well, who do you like tonight, Eric? Who do you like tonight?
Man, if the last game against Oregon is any indication on what Ohio State is ready to do these days, I don't see anybody beating them. They look so good and so dominant against Oregon, a team that they played closely, Rock, as you know, because we saw it in person. They played them close up there at Austin.
Yep.
But they lost. And that team looked just so dominant. We know they have the best receiving crew in the country, but their defense played stout. And my God, Will Howard looked like he is ready to play on the next level.
And Will Howard has seen the Texas, if you will, when he was in the Big 12. He's seen that program. He's seen those defenses.
Yep.
He understands what he's about to get into when he watches the tape and just goes, I know a little bit. Now, they'll make some things up, but he's familiar with that program.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to have some familiarity, and probably has played against some of the guys that he'll see on that defense. But none of that's really going to matter if his team ends up showing up the way that they did against Oregon. And they have all the motivation in the world. I mean, I know Marcus is trying to get Notre Dame back to its glory days, but Ryan Day, I mean, who's got it? I'll use the opposite of Harbaugh. Who's got it harder than him, right? I mean, This guy wins, almost every game, every season, save for maybe one or two games, and people have been calling for his head for years. And is one of the most successful coaches in college football. I mean, he needs a national championship this year. So there may be a little bit more, I think,
10-minute mark
anxiety around the Ohio State team, potentially. But they sure do have the horses.
When's the last time you've seen a true freshman like Jeremiah Smith do what he's doing on a football field? And
kid's unbelievable.
And not that you want to compare him to anybody, but the maturity and the physicality for a true, 17, 18-year-old has been amazing.
Yeah, it's unreal, and putting aside what a physical specimen he is in terms of size and speed and strength. I mean, he is a grown man, and he shows every single week. So I don't know what Ohio State has done, but this pipeline of wide receivers that they have going on is pretty impressive. It reminds me of Penn State being, linebacker U back in the day, or USC being running back, the place where all the running backs went. They're churning out high-level wide receivers.
He's Erik Moses, Rocket Manuch here on ESPN 620. Of course, the Verbo Fiesta Bowl executive director and CEO, and the Rape Bowl. And I got to tell you, Erik, moving that game up, that being the Rape Bowl, the ratings were up 30% from last year. That's huge. I mean, I know it wasn't because of Manuch's Kansas State Wildcats. I know it wasn't them. But the fact that it moved up a lot, I think that is, hopefully we can keep it in that slot.
You can give us some credit there, Erik. That's okay. We'll take it.
Manuch, I always give your guys credit. Look, I saw one of the ESPN production guys at the game last night, and I said to him, 30% up. So that means you're guaranteed at the daytime kickoff next year. And he kind of laughed. So we shall see what our overlords at ESPN decide to do for that game. But I sure did love having it during the daytime, and I think there's so much more that we can do with it. If it is has a daytime kickoff.
Well, I can imagine the businesses loved it as well, too. The K-Staters that were down there, you had a few Rutgers folks up and down. I will say this, though, so many K-State folks have never been to that game over at Chase Field. They loved the setup. They couldn't tell any particular reason that it's actually a baseball field the way you had it designed and set up, and it's been like that forever.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I was pleased with the activation that Rutgers did, the boardwalk that they brought in outside. The fan festival was lively. It was a good look, and that's the kind of thing that we can repeat if we're not playing the game at 7:30 or 8:30 at night.
Mm-hmm. And then the Penn State, Boise State, the first CFP quarterfinal, primetime New Year's Eve. That's not an easy time frame to get eyeballs, and it delivered. On the ESPN platform, and I think they did better than all the first round games. What do you attribute that? Just the matchup being Penn State Boise? Because I think, Erik, I know we're close to it. People are like, Boise State, maybe they shouldn't be there, but man, people tuned in.
They tuned in. I think it's a good story. America likes an underdog, and so I think that probably played some part in it. Their fans sure as hell showed up. I think the whole state of Idaho came down to the Valley for that game. And look, I think us having an exclusive window, right, in terms of when it aired, helped a whole lot. We weren't worried about getting to the next game or any of that kind of stuff, and so we had our own window, and we were the only quarterfinal that day, and the very first one in history. And I think all of those things probably played a part in making certain that people were tuning in front of the televisions and frankly showed up in a big way and made it a great environment inside the venue as well.
Well, I think a lot of that is the fans finally got what they wanted. 12-team playoff. The numbers are up viewing wise. I mean, all over the place. Look at the numbers. The second halves. Interesting in some of these games. The second half numbers, the way they picked up versus the first half, because all of a sudden these games became games. And I think more than anything, that's the main reason why America finally has what they want.
I think that's right. And look, we've talked about it a number of times. Having a tournament-style playoff system that allows more teams to compete, more fan bases to get engaged, and to stay engaged throughout the entire season, because your season's not over just because you lost one game to your rival, Notre Dame, or not even your rival, right? To the team you pay $1 million to come get their heads kicked in, and you lose to them at home, but they're playing for a national championship in a week.
Erik, last one, just to give us kind of a snapshot at what goes on the next 6 months. I'm too close to it, but I know Manuch and Jackson and our audience maybe doesn't really know what goes on with the Rape Bowl and Fiesta Bowl after the games are played. I know as a Yellow Jacket, we have another meeting coming up, already making plans for next year. But talk about, basically what goes on over the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is a debrief with all of our constituencies. I mean, that includes the CFP, that includes the Big Ten, the Big 12, that includes the 4 teams that played in our game, to ensure that we're getting feedback from them on what we did well and any of the things that they thought didn't go so well, so that we can change that and ensure that our execution meets the mark next year. It is, making certain that the other things, as you know, Rock, that we do out in the community and the other events that we're doing are being set up the right way. As you know, we're sponsoring this year the National Quarterback Club, which is on February 28th, and going to have some great quarterbacks including Carson Palmer, getting inducted into the Hall of Fame for the National Quarterback Club, and over at Caesars Republic. That's going to be a great event, so we're turning our attention to that and expecting you to do what you always do, Rock, and make it rain for us. We're looking at a lot of things, and also, as you know, and you and I have talked about this. I mean, a big part of my job, frankly, and our board's job, is to help try to look around corners. This thing called college athletics and college football is not done changing.
Yeah,
and so we've got to be on our toes, figuring out how to best position this organization so that it can continue to make the kind of community impact and the kind of economic impact that it's made for over a half century in the state of Arizona.
And to top that off, Eric, you think about, we've been talking about the NIL and the collective and how programs are going to turn. It's going to basically, I feel college football is minor league football now. We just can't lose.
Professional minor league football.
Yeah, professional minor league. We just can't lose the fact that we still want these young men and women and athletes to get educated on top of it. The trepidation, I believe, would be, how do we keep that, or how can we recommend that not get out of control and keep the student athlete realize you can't eat the football, can't eat the basketball, you still need to get educated per se?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, as I've always said, I believe that we as a society, but certainly those who are involved in collegiate athletics and secondary education, higher education, owe these kids, these young men and women, an education in the classroom, in the meeting room, on the field of play, and in the community. And I don't think that this change and the fact that now they're able to make some money off of their unique skills and talents should relieve us of that responsibility and duty. And so, kids are making money now. Let's teach them about how to save it.
Sure.
Let's teach them about how to invest it. Let's teach them about, options to ensure that they can do what they want to do to help their families out to the extent that they can, but that they're putting nest eggs away for themselves, because most of them are not going to play on the next level. And if they do, they may not play for very long. And so if the most valuable time you have in your athletic career are those 4 or 5 years in college, let's make certain that you have something to show for it when you graduate. I think we owe that to them. And I think, connecting them, I've talked to a couple of athletic directors that are doing this, connecting these young men and women with alumni from these schools that are, captains of industry, people who are involved as executives and entrepreneurs in various types of businesses. Let's educate them about that, about what they can do with some of this money. I was reading an article the other day about Armando Baycott, who played at my alma mater in North Carolina on the basketball team. Kid took some of his NIL money and bought a hotel, right? So let's start educating these kids about what they can do now that they're going to have some dollars in their pocket and available to them.
Rock was preaching about how ASU should be all over their alumni and their fans. Strike while you're hat for the NIL collective. I'm just curious, for one, Eric Moses has one Mike Lombardi, the new GM for the North Carolina Tar Heels, i.e. Bill Belichick, been contacted about contributing.
Yeah, you're helping with the collective?
Yeah, your big bucks that you donate every year.
They don't call poor people. So I haven't heard from them yet.
You're on the list. You're on the list.
They just haven't got to the M yet.
Yeah, they haven't gotten to the M yet. That's right. They haven't gotten to the M's. Hey, Eric, very well said, buddy. Safe travels back to the Valley, and thank you for the time today. Great job this year. It was a wonderful month of games and hospitality and everything else. I don't think it could have went any better. The weather was perfect. It was just it was perfect, and it'll be even better in 2025. So thanks for jumping on with us every week. We appreciate you. We'll continue to catch up with you. Hopefully get you before the national championship. You're probably going to be there, right? I'm assuming you'll be there?
I will be there.
Okay, well, maybe if we can
be there with the rest of our crew.
Oh, maybe we get you to squeeze a phone call into us, to us little people on that Monday. So that'll be good. All right, buddy. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Congratulations to you guys for the ESPN pickup. I think it's great. You guys deserve it. You do a great show, and you're great in this community. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Eric. That's Eric Moses, the Verbo, Fiesta Bowl and Rate Bowl Executive Director and CEO. So I'm on the field with him, right? And he congratulates me and Hatch, of course, he's the head honcho here at the station. And he comes up and he's like, so you and Minucci on ESPN now. He goes, am I going to be able to come on your show anymore? He thought we were going national.
Yeah. I had several people say, oh, so you're going to be national? I said, no,
we're affiliates.
Pump the brakes. We've done that national thing.
Yeah, I'm not doing that ever.
Yeah,
we did it twice.
Yes, we did.
We did it for Sporting News, and we did it for SB Nation.
Yes.
And it's just not what it's cut out to be. Everybody aspires to